This podcast is a member of the New York City Podcast Network at nycpodcastnetwork.com. Visit us to listen to over 250 amazing podcasts just like this one.
Japanese street style is some of the cutest and trendiest clothing in the world. Introducing Cherry Goddess Women's Clothing and Accessories, the hottest original and cute clothing company. We offer tops, clothes, accessories, shoes, dresses and skirts, and comfortable homeware that we guarantee you will love. Cherry Goddess Women's Clothing, super cute Japanese style clothing.
This is Black Wall Street Chronicles, and we're back at it again. I just want everybody to know that during this COVID-19 epidemic, everybody hold their head. Shout out to all the early voters that voted before November the 3rd. Tomorrow and the next couple of weeks is about to get crazy. There's already certain states that's saying that they're not going to be able to count the mail-in ballots for about 5 days to a week. Who knows if the mail-in ballots is going to be calculated. I was looking at the news in Pennsylvania, and I find out that in Philadelphia, they sent like 2 million mail-in ballots back. So it's gonna be real tough out here. But before we get started, I want to make some announcements. My podcast, this particular podcast, is on Apple, Spotify, and it's on Amazon Music. So if you want to listen to my podcast on Amazon Music and you have Amazon Prime, you can stream it free. My Instagram account is BlackCog8840. My Instagram account is BlackCog8840. When you go to my Instagram account, you can go to my bios. If you go to my bios, it has my Twitter account, it has my Facebook page, and it has my Twitch page. Yes, I am a gamer as a hobby, and I like to stream my videos on the Twitch. Now, we're going to get started. We're going to talk about the incident when a black man who seems to be struggling with a mental disability has got killed by the Philadelphia Police Department. His name is William, let me get his name. His name is Walter Wallace J.R. And it has caused civil unrest in the city of Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. They don't look like no brotherly love outside because, you got people throwing objects at the police officers, and the police officers is fighting back. There's a lot of civil unrest in the state of Pennsylvania and the city of Philadelphia. So I'm gonna read a couple of articles and then I'm gonna give my opinion. Okay. Alrighty. Walter Wallace Jr. could not have been a threat to police officers in Philadelphia when he was shot and killed, his family says. I'm reading an article from CNN. It is by Nicole Chavez. He can't hurt a damn fly. He has mental issues. His father, Walter Wallace Sr., told CNN's Chris Cuomo on primetime Tuesday night. Wallace, a 27-year-old black man, was shot and killed during a confrontation with police in West Philadelphia Monday after officers responded to a report of a person with a weapon. Philadelphia Police Sergeant Eric Gipper-Affer told CNN affiliate KYW that officers saw a man with a knife who was brandishing it and waving it erratically. It could have been dealt with in a different way. He could have called a supervisor to handle the situation, Wallace said. Wallace, who had 9 children, suffered from bipolar disorder and was in crisis during the time of the shooting, his family said. Relatives called authorities at least 3 times a day, including one time when Wallace's brother asked for an ambulance. Shaka Johnson, an attorney representing the Wallace family, said in the news conference Tuesday. Law enforcement was called because they wanted an ambulance to come, Johnson said. The police are who arrived first. Police is the one who arrived first. It is unclear whether police responded to all 3 calls. CNN has reached out to the police and the family attorney for clarity. The attorney said Wallace's wife told officers that her husband was manic, bipolar, and in crisis. Unfortunately, the officers was not equipped with the training or the proper equipment to deal with a person who has experienced crisis in that moment, Johnson told CNN. You don't deal with crisis with a firearm. Philadelphia Police Commissioner Daniel Outlaw said that Tuesday that the officers involved in the shooting were not equipped with tasers and every other officer in the city is not issued one. It is common to officers to respond to domestic disturbances with a gun because it's one of the tools that we carry on our tool belt, she said. The fatal shooting has sparked consecutive days of protests in Philadelphia, which have turned into violent clashes with police and looting. Wallace's father asked protesters to honor his son's memory in the city they call home. I don't want to leave a bad scar on my son and my family with this looting and chaos stuff, he's told CNN. So I want my son's name and everybody to stop this. Give my son a chance and the family like we're decent people. Everybody to have respect for our family, to pray for us. Cut it out. The looting is a mindset and it won't bring my son back, and it will escalate things to get worse instead of better, he added. Family members also stood outside the Wallace family home on Tuesday in front of reporters, calling for peaceful demonstrators talking about Wallace. Wallace's wife, who Johnson said is expected to give birth to a girl any day now, and 2 of Wallace's young sons joined other relatives. One of Wallace's sons told reporters that his dad told him to be a man and had died, but Black lives still matter. Yeah. I was in a show, a podcast show with my best friend called Aaron Smith Can't Lose, and when I was a guest on the show, we did an interview with a Hispanic woman. I can't remember her name, and she was talking about the fact that, that she has special needs children, and she was basically creating a program to train police officers on how to deal with special needs. Train police officers to deal with people who have mental disabilities, because there was another situation. I think it was in Florida, when you had a para that got shot by police officers because he wanted to calm a special needs person down. So this is an example. This what happened here about how officers are not equipped to deal with individuals who have mental issues. Okay. All right, I'm gonna read another article. Give me a moment. Okay, this article's from 3 days ago for the footage. It shows the body cam footage of Walter Wallace Jr. police shooting to be released day after national election. They're waiting to after the election, which is yeah, they don't want this incident to affect the election in any way, so of course they're gonna hold the information. Body camera footage of the moments leading up to the fatal police shooting of Walter Wallace Jr. will be released publicly Wednesday, the day after the national election. joint statement released Friday by Philadelphia's mayor, district attorney, and police commissioner in the Wallace family said the timing is the best interest of our city and its residents. Philadelphians are experiencing an immense amount of pain. Significant unrest persists throughout the entire city, the statement said. The collective hope of our local government and the Wallace family is the releasing of the recordings on November 4th will provide enough time to calm tensions for the recordings to release in the most constructive manner possible. The statement came one day after Wallace's relatives watched the footage, which family attorney Shaka Johnson said to show the man an obvious mental health crisis. The footage, which is about 30 to 40 seconds long, showed Wallace emerging from a house with a knife as family members shout about his mental condition, according to Johnson. The head of the city's police union on Friday called for the release of the footage in 911 audio so the city can begin the process of healing following days of unrest and curfews. The Fraternal Order of Police Lodge No. 5 President John McNeesby said in a statement that the union's review of the footage and the audio showed officers retreating for nearly 50 seconds and ordered Wallace to drop his knife more than 20 times before shooting. Wallace, 27, was shot and killed Monday while holding a knife during a conversation with police in Westford, Philadelphia. The shooting and the moments that immensely preceded it were also recorded by a bystander with a cell phone. Wallace family has said that he suffered from bipolar disorder and was in crisis at the time of the shooting. The officers were justified in their use of force, very difficult and stressful condition. An armed man confronted them with a knife, said McNeesby, who noted the officers follow police department training and protocols. Police Commissioner Daniel Outlaw said Friday the body cam footage concerned her. I'm careful about what I say because I do not know all the circumstances around it far as what has led to. What the officers experience and what they'll be saying in their internal affairs interview, she said. With that said, I will be only speculating right now, but what I saw was rather concerning. Philadelphia Mayor Jim Keeney said that the identities of the officers involved in the shooting will be released on Wednesday. Officials said Friday a citywide curfew will begin in place at 9 p.m. through 6 a.m. The two arrests in connection with the unrest late Thursday and early Friday and 13 looting incidents, according to the mayor's office. The shooting has set off days of unrest, which demonstrators marching in the streets and some instances of property destruction and attacks on police officers. Johnson said officers fired 14 times at Wallace from about a car and a half distance away. He said that the city had failed the officers by not giving them less lethal options, such as a taser, to handle such situations. Wallace family believes the city failed them, but they are not calling for the officers to be charged with murder, Johnson told reporters on Thursday, and here's why. They were importantly trained and did not have the proper equipment by which to effectuate their job, Johnson said. Agreed. Like you said earlier, they don't know how to deal with individuals who have mental disabilities. Alright, hold on for a second. I'm going to read this article on wikipedia.com. Alright, it's going to give a biography, the shooting. It's going to give a biography of the whole situation, and it's going to give the play-by-play of what happened during the killing of Walter Wallace. Hold on. On October 26, 2020, Walter Wallace Jr., a 27-year-old African-American man, was fatally shot by the police in Cobbs Creek, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. 2 Philadelphia Police Department officers arrived in the area to respond to a domestic dispute. When they arrived, Wallace moves towards them carrying a knife. and the two officers backed away while telling them to drop the knife, and the Wallace advanced towards them, with each officer following rounds at Wallace's shoulder and chest. He later died in a hospital. Wallace's family stated Wallace was having a mental health crisis. In response to the killing, protests against police brutality occurred throughout Philadelphia in late October in response to Wallace's killing, many of which escalated into violence and looting, leading to arrests, injuries, police and protesters, deployment of the Pennsylvania National Guard, and a citywide curfew. Let's look at the biography. Alright. Walter Wallace Jr. was an inspiring rapper and father of 8 who was married into October 2020. At the time of his death, he was 27 years old and employed as an Uber Eats driver. According to family members and the family's attorney, Wallace suffered from mental illness, including bipolar disorder, and was taking lithium. In 2013, Wallace pled guilty to assaulting a police officer and was ordered to undergo psychiatric evaluation and treatment. In 2017, Wallace received a sentence of 23 months incarceration after he pleaded guilty to robbery and assault after kicking the door of a woman and putting a gun to her head. March 2020, Wallace was arrested and charged for making terroristic threats. He was awaiting a trial. On October 26, 2020, police attended 3 separate times to the house on 6100 block of Locust Street in the predominantly black neighborhood of Cobbs Creek, Philadelphia. Around 4 p.m. during their third arrival, they came in response to reports of a person screaming and a man assaulting an elderly female. Video on social media shows Wallace walking into the street as people yelled. 2 police officers aimed their gun at him. At one point, Wallace, who was 7 feet away from the officers in the video, walks towards them as they quickly move backward, telling them twice to put the knife down. The camera points down to the ground as 7 shots are heard. Wallace's mother tried to stop him, pleading to the officers not to shoot him more before the officers fired. Chief Inspector Frank Fenor said each officer fired about 7 times, with an unknown number of shots hitting Wallace. One of the officers placed Wallace in a police vehicle and drove him to the hospital, where he was pronounced dead. The officers involved with the shooting were moved to death duty pending an investigation. Family attorney Shaka Johnson said that the family had called for an ambulance to get Wallace help with a mental health crisis, not for police intervention, and that the Wallace was suffering from bipolar disorder. Wallace's parents said officers knew that their son was in a mental state crisis because they have been to the family's house 3 times in October 26. Police Commissioner Daniels Outlaw said the police dispatched prior to the shooting said, "Tell the officers to use caution in response to this. It is an ongoing domestic issue going up there." It is unknown if the police knew Wallace had mental health issues, as well as several criminal charges before arriving on the scene. Investigators said that the officers involved were wearing police body cameras, and the footage will be part of the investigation. Commissioner Outlaw announced on October 29th that they will not be releasing to the public the body camera footage, as well as 911 tapes and complicated history dealing the previous prevalent police responses to the home on November 4th. On October 30th, the Wallace family received police body camera footage of the shooting, after which Attorney Johnson acknowledged that Wallace had a knife, and he was suffering obviously mental crisis. Johnson also said the footage one officer said he shoot him to the other hospital and showed that Wallace was incapacitated after the first shot. The family does not want the officer charged with murder and intend to file a wrongful death lawsuit. Petitioner Order Police President John McNeesby viewed the police body camera footage and said officers follow police department training and protocols. Walter's father, Walter Wallace Sr., said that his son had mental health issues and was on medication and asked why the police did not use a taser instead. Philadelphia Mayor Jim Kenney said the shooting raised difficult questions that must be answered. Police Commissioner Dana Outlaw said that there would be an investigation, adding that neither officer was equipped with a taser, as the apartment only had 2,300 tasers at the time of shooting, which Outlaw said she intended to increase to 4,500. She also suggested a need for a behavioral health unit within the police department. She later went on to say that she would be creating this behavioral health unit as a directory for officers that lists mental health resources available during all hours of the day. Fraternal Order of Police President John McNeesby showed support for the officers, saying, "Our officers are being vilified for doing their job and keeping the community safe. After being confronted by a man with a knife, we support and defend these officers." Philadelphia Police Commissioner Charles H. Ramsey said he didn't see anything criminal on the side of the officers, and I can't see in the tape that they were backing up. At some point in time, the distance was beginning to close between themselves and the individual. Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden and his running mate Kamala Harris published a statement sharing, "Our hearts are broken for the family of Walter Wallace Jr. We cannot accept that this country of mental health crisis ends in death." Protests and demonstrators against police brutality and institutional racism in response to Walter Wallace killings took place across Philadelphia throughout the take October. Peaceful demonstrations took place while officers escalated in the clashes between police and protesters. As of October 31st, there had been a total of 225 arrests, 60 injured police officers, 617 incidents looting, 10 damaged vehicles, and 24 ATM explosions, according to Philadelphia officials. On the night of October 26 into the morning of October 27, protesters marched through West Philadelphia, and the video posted on social media to appear to show the police was clashing with demonstrators. Those marching shared that much march peaceful until protesters came upon a group of police officers near the Philadelphia Police 18th District. The violence and arrests that spread from other parts of West Philadelphia and other adjacent city neighborhoods. Police arrested at least 91 people overnight, charging with looting. According to the Philadelphia Police Department, 30 police officers were injured, in most cases by bricks and rocks that were thrown at protesters. 5 police vehicles and 1 fire department vehicle were vandalized. A 56-year-old female police officer received a broken leg after being hit with a pickup truck. On October 27, the state and city authorities requested help for the Pennsylvania National Guard, which then mobilized several hundred soldiers. According to the police reports, businesses began getting looted right 9 p.m. in North Philadelphia, with allegedly 1,000 people looting businesses in Port Richmond. Residents from several districts of Philadelphia were instructed by the police to stay indoors to avoid widespread demonstrations that had turned violent with looting. The Party of Socialism and Liberalization held a march from the Malcolm X Park in West Philadelphia through the University of Pennsylvania campus to Clark Park, which was attended around 1,000 people. Protesters at the march called for community control of the police, defunding the Philadelphia Police Department, and the arrest of the officers involved. The march was endorsed by 6 justice organizations, including the Penn Community for Justice and the City Black Lives Matter chapter. Venice broke out between police and protesters near a police precinct, with some of the crowd throwing rocks, light bulbs, and bricks at the police, leaving 1 officer injured. Police officers armed with riot gear lined the streets and broke up large groups to arrest those accused of rolling projectiles by hitting them with batons and tracking them. At least 23 officers were injured, 9 protest vehicles were damaged, and 81 arrests were made on the charges of trespassing, assault on police, and disorderly conduct. Video footage from the protesters also show a slow-moving SUV being surrounded by the police. Officers with batons surrounded the vehicle, broke its windows, pulled the driver and passenger. Rika Young and the teenage nephew from the car, threw them into the ground, and then pulled Young's 2-year-old from the back seat. Young had to be taken to the hospital for injuries sustained in the arrest and was later released without charges. The fraternity ordered police posted a photo of the policewoman holding Young's son to Twitter and Facebook, claiming that the child had been found wandering the streets and they were protecting him. The police union was accused of lying in a post showing an officer carrying the child, and removed the post after learning conflicting accounts over how the toddler ended up in the hands of the police. Yeah. In response to the protests, Philadelphia announced a citywide curfew on October 28th from 9 p.m. to October 28th to 6 a.m. at the following day. No major protests took place. 40 people were arrested for charges including assault on police, burglary, failure to curfew, and vehicle theft. 4 police officers were injured and 11 automated trader mechanics ATMs were blown up. On October 30th, Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf deployed the National Guard to Philadelphia and stationed them outside City Hall and the Municipal Services Building. Another curfew was imposed beginning 9 p.m. on October 30th and ending at 6 a.m. on October 31st. 2 men were charged with felony possession of weapons of mass destruction after illegal explosives, bolt cutters, and machetes were found in their van. Officials said that the 2 men were attempted to blow up their ATMs. A crowd estimated at upward 1,000 turned out of West Philadelphia for a protest, with the demonstration originally due to gather at 61st Locust Streets near the site of the original killing. Both Wallace's father and his cousin, Anthony Fish-Hoare, decried any looting and violence which took place during the protests. U.S. President Donald Trump connected with the riots with Mayor Kenny, saying that the mayor who is allowing people to riot and loot and not to stop them is just a horrible thing. And noting that they took place in a Democratic-run state, a Democratic-run city, Trump also said, Philadelphia was torn up by Biden supporting radicals, and Biden stands with the rioters, and I stand with the heroes of law enforcement. White House Director of Strategic Communication Alicia Farah said on October 27th that the White House was prepared to deploy federal resources in response to the unrest. White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany similarly suggested in a statement that the White House stands ready upon request to deploy in all federal resources to end these riots. Biden responded to the protest saying, "There is no excuse whatever for the looting and the violence, none whatsoever. I think to be able to protest is totally legitimate, it's totally reasonable." Additional locations. A group of protesters gathered in Portland, Oregon on October 27, marched through North Portland, and it was one of the 3 separate demonstrations in the city that night, with one crowd gathering at Arbor Lodge Park and marched to Portland Commissioner Dan Ryan's house and called on them to further defund the Portland Police Bureau. Protests and violence were seen in New York City on October 27th, where protests arrested in Brooklyn after reports of damage to the property. Police stated that the police vehicles were damaged and trash cans, American flags, and additional objects were set on fire in videos on social media. Officers and protesters met near Burnham Place, a train station in Brooklyn, where several officers were reportedly injured after a car drove through a group of police. Wow. The car that drive through the police. That sounds like the same thing that happened in reverse in Manhattan, where the police officers drove through the car. When the police officers used their car to drive through people. I mean, well, I don't know what to say. There's a lot of civil unrest out here. I'm not telling you whether to vote or not tomorrow. I'm telling you for the next couple of weeks, you have to be careful. You have to be really careful. I don't know what the heck is going on out here. It's getting really scary, especially in New York City. The violence in the Bronx is skyrocketing. So I want everybody to be safe. Thank you for listening to this particularly short podcast episode, and God bless.